I find myself not too far from home today, in Shantemon mountain, outside Cavan town. And what you see behind me are large standing stones. There are lots of different stories about the stones, all linked to Fionn McCool, and it's why they're called Fionn McCool's fingers. One story is that a great battle was fought here, and that during the battle Fionn's arm was severed, and these are the remains of his fingers. Another story is that there's a cave beneath our feet, and the Fianna sleep there, ready to answer Ireland's call again if they should ever be needed. And just before Fionn fell asleep, he put his hand up through the roof of the cave, just to anchor himself. And the stones are his weather-beaten fingers. But my favourite story was told to me by my friend Fionn McCool from Cootehill, and it goes a little bit like this. A lot is known about Fionn McCool and these warriors, the Fianna, but not everyone has heard about his childhood. Fionn had a tragic beginning. His father died before he was even born. Cool, Fionn's father, was the leader of the Fianna, and he was killed in battle by his enemy, Gull MacMorna, who then became the Fianna leader. Murren, Fionn's mother, afraid for him, brought Fionn as an infant to the Slieve Bloom Mountains in the centre of Ireland and left him in the care of his foster mothers, Baumall and the Leah Luchra. And there Fionn grew into a fine boy, and from infancy he learned archery and weaponry and all sorts of athletic feats. But what he loved most of all was hunting. And he would hunt every day with his two dogs, Bran and Skiolan. Now one day Fionn was in the forests of Slieve Bloom hunting with his dogs when suddenly he stopped. There in front of him was a large hare with bright blue eyes. This was a strange looking hare, none like he'd seen before, and his dogs, instead of stopping with him, began to behave strangely. They started to bark and snarl, and they wouldn't quieten down no matter how much Fionn told them. The hare, sensing the danger, hopped up and ran away like lightning, and the both dogs broke their collars and ran away straight after her. Fionn, afraid to lose his dogs, ran after them. And as he ran into the forest, he couldn't see the hounds and he couldn't see the hare, and suddenly he had to stop because this thick mist had fallen in the centre of the forest, and it was so thick he couldn't see his hand in front of his face. Suddenly the mist lifted and he found himself in a lowland clearing with a river running by him. He decided to stop and take a drink from the river, seeing the mountain reflected on the river's surface. But when he looked up, it wasn't the Slieve Bloom he saw. It was the Quilca in Cavan. He had travelled 2 days' journey in several minutes. How could this be? And there were no sign of his dogs either. Fionn decided to follow the river upstream and came to a small pool that we call today Lung na Shinna, the Shannon pot. And there by the pot was an old lady struggling with a bucket. But Fionn was in a hurry. He needed to find his hounds. The old lady saw Fionn and she called to him, "Young man, come help me fill my bucket that I may go home and feed myself today." But Fionn hadn't the time to help, and he was rude to the old lady. "Don't be bothering me," he said. "I need to find my hounds. Have you seen dogs pass this way?" "The young have no time for the old," said the old woman. Fionn became frustrated. "Woman, I need to find my hounds. Did they pass this way?" "Oh," said the old woman, "even if they did, I wouldn't tell you. You wouldn't even help me carry a bucket of water home. Maybe you're not strong enough to lift that bucket for me." "I am," said Fionn, getting all proud. "Of course I can lift that bucket. I'm the tallest and strongest boy in my family." "I bet you couldn't lift that big stone over there," said the old lady. "Of course I can," said Fionn, and he walked over to the large boulder, and getting his hands around it, he reached down and lifted the stone up. Said the old woman, that doesn't look that hard. I bet you couldn't lift it over your head. Of course I could, said Fionn, and he lifted the stone up over his head with all his might. Said the old woman, I bet you couldn't throw that stone. And at this point, Fionn was so frustrated, and he threw the stone as far as he could, and it sailed across the county of Cavan, landing on Bruise Hill at the far end of the county. Ah! Shouted Fionn, and looking down, he realised while throwing the stone he had broken his finger. Then he heard cackling. The old woman was laughing at him. Poor warrior broke his finger throwing a stone. Fionn got angry with her. You did this to me. You made me throw the stone. And he went to run at her. But before he could even go towards her, the old lady jumped up and ran off faster than he'd ever seen anyone run before. Fionn, startled at this, began to run after her, and the two of them ran up the side of the Quillica mountain. And Fionn was gaining on her, and he got his hand out just at the edge of the mountain. He went to grab her, but the woman made this massive leap into the air. She sailed across the drumlins and landed on Slieve Glah, miles away. Fionn was staggered. He had never seen a woman jump like this before. The woman on Slieve Glah waved at him and said, "Ha ha! You'll never catch me!" Angry, Fionn found another boulder. He lifted it up and he threw it across the county. And the old woman waited, and she dodged the boulder. "Ha ha! Some warrior you are with a name like that," she said. Angry, he ran towards Slieve Glah. And as he ran, she ran too. He got up on top of Slieve Glah. He looked down. She was in the hollow in Drumahilla. She danced around the place. Sure, the big Fionn McCool can't get me down here. He looked around Slieve Glah for the boulder. He picked it up and he threw it again. This time grabbing it so hard he put his handprints into the boulder. She waited, and she dodged it again. It landed straight into the ground and became buried there. "Ha ha ha!" cackled the old woman. "Some warrior you are. You haven't got an aim. You'll never catch me, Fionn McCool." And that struck him. She knew his name. How did she know who he was? He went to run, but she ran to the east, and him coming northwest almost caught her. They both ran up towards Lochanleigh. And as they were getting up to the summit of Lochanleigh, the old lady, as she was getting to the top, Fionn almost got her and he grabbed her shawl. But she leaped again, another huge leap. But as she leaped, he pulled the shawl from her. She stumbled and she landed on Shantemon mountain. She looked up and turned around, and there was a wild look in her eyes, large blue eyes. Holding her shawl on Lochanleigh, Fionn recognised those eyes. They were the eyes of the hare. He roared with anger, and the old woman shouted to him, "Fionn McCool, you've made an enemy of me today, and you will never see your hounds again." So Fionn looked around him furiously and went to the cairns in Lochanleigh, and he grabbed 5 boulders, one after the other, and threw them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each time the old lady ducking and diving, Fionn missing her with every throw. The last stone landed on her foot, breaking it. Now she was angry. She turned to Lochanleigh, pointed at Fionn and said, "Fionn McCool, you've made an enemy of me. I am the Cialach, the winter witch, and you will never see your hounds again. But you will see me, but you will not know me." And with that, in a flash, she was gone. Before Fionn could react, a mist fell again. And when it lifted, he was back in the Slieve Bloom, with Bran and Skjolon waiting for him. He was so relieved to have seen his 2 dogs, he went home and didn't think about it again. And the Cialach was right. They would meet again. Next time on Slieve Gullion, and Fionn wouldn't recognise her. But then, that's a story for another place and another time.